Hey, I'm sitting here with my sister girl, Tania Hudson, and just chopping it up about some future things we're trying to work on. You have the STOP program?
Yes.
And so exactly what is it? What does the acronym stand for?
Start teaching our people.
Okay, our people as in?
Our people, as in our community, as in your grandchildren, the people who need to learn self-regulation skills, de-escalation skills.
Conflict resolution?
Conflict resolution.
Okay. So where do you want to take that program? Because it sounds like something that's so needed in the community.
I like to start in the schools. It gives us the opportunity for them to build trust in a relationship with their peers, and also the opportunity to learn how to take those skills home with them where trauma normally is embedded.
Okay, excellent. So with that program, do you take it into the elementary schools? Or do you have a level where you want to start it at?
There's no level. All of our children's lives are valuable, and I believe starting them in elementary school helps them realize about time they're in middle school. So between 4th grade up to graduation.
Wow. So I can see that program being so beneficial, like even in like the recreation centers when they have different programs, after school programs where you actually have time to focus on how to interact. So is this a role-playing thing, or is this like workbook? Like how do you get the information to them?
There's 2 levels to it. There is a 6-week program where it's like what would you do if someone said such and such. Coulda, what could you have done differently? And should've. You should have done this, that, and
like that.
So we're in the process of working on those.
So where do I sign up for that? I mean, even as adults, like, with everything that's going on, pressure and inflation, and we don't have that patience either. Even like road rage or in the grocery store, somebody taking your parking spot. Like, I feel like that's not just for kids, but it's perfect that it starts with them so that they can grow up with that skill set. But it sounds like something that the parents should be involved in as well.
Well, that's the best part of it, or one of the great part of us being able to role play. Getting the parents involved is this we're putting together called Apple Doesn't Fall Far from the Tree. So you pick an apple off the tree, and this is during the time of a parent having to be involved in whatever the situation may have been where the child have gotten in trouble in school or just out at the rec center, and we're just asking you to participate with your child, and you read the question and then you have to respond as if looking at how your child react to these things, because they react the way that we react, believe it or not.
Right.
So when you say getting the parents involved, if the child could take home breathing exercises, which we as an adult don't really understand that, it's just relieving stress.
Yeah.
It's not so much as that you're tired. You breathe different just at that moment. So if we can plant the seed to get back to the basics of how to even deal with day-to-day life, because again, the trauma have been embedded. We've been on autopilot, and we know how to navigate and strategize to survive.
Right.
For me, after losing my children, I had to learn how to strategize, survive, and thrive.
Okay.
Because there's those differences in regards to striving and thriving.
How'd you come up with this idea? Because it's brilliant to me, and I haven't seen anything like this. Like I said, in the schools or in the recreation centers, any programs that even tackle, the conflict resolution piece and all that. So, how did you come up with this?
When Johnny was murdered in 2009, my oldest son, I felt that a lot of our children weren't being heard. As a parent, I was always involved And it was just like, how are they going to stop the violence if they don't know how?
Right.
And it became my ultimate goal to show them their behavior. Like, that's one of the things that I love doing when I'm interacting with the kids. I ask them, show me what Mr. Brown looks like when he's talking to you. Mm-hmm. And the child may show me. And then I'll ask the teacher, can you show me what he looks like when he's talking to you? So it's almost as just making them see each other.
Exactly.
We see each other.
That's good
So
stuff.
After losing Johnny, my pain needed a purpose. Mm-hmm. My pain needed to reflect what his daughter needed to know as she was growing. What I needed to do is say, hey, listen, parents aren't always right. Mm-hmm. Teachers aren't always right. Police aren't always right. So we need to teach our people how to interact. And when I say our people, it includes the teachers, the police. I would love to eventually have some police officers interact with the kids to see how they react to the de-escalation or the conflict resolutions part of it, because those are the ones that have the ability to take a life with no consequences. Sure. So when you ask me where it came from my heart. Mm-hmm. After losing my child, and just knowing the way that we were brought up in our community and how we stood together and the things that we were taught. Yeah. You know, you were taught.
That's good stuff. You know, I can remember being a kid and not necessarily knew how to de-escalate a situation, mm-hmm. but I knew how to walk away.
And see, and that's the whole thing, because media and internet makes you run to it. Yeah. And for me, if we're in the schools and you give them, what would you do if you overheard such and such was going to fight? Mm-hmm. We already know there's going to be gunplay involved. So we need to make them unconsciously but self-consciously be aware of what will or could transpire. Yeah. Because it's happening.
Every day.
It's happening. You hear, oh, well, after school, we're going to the park and they're going to do such and such. And then an innocent bystander gets shot.
Well, listen to this funny story. My cousin tells me this story every so often and I get a kick out of it. But she was in school, elementary school. And, there was going to be a fight after school. And, the kids were all coming together. Mm-hmm. And she was the one fighting. And I was like, she's not a fighter. So I was like, you were going to fight after school? She said, yeah. She said, and when all the kids gathered around, it was me and my twin brother fighting. And I said, even with siblings, there needs to be a way to resolve those conflicts. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be, something vile and verbal. It could just be a matter of sitting down. Mm-hmm. But if we don't do it as adults, mm-hmm. how are we expecting children to have the skill set that we don't exercise?
And that's the reason my approach is in the schools first. Mm-hmm. Because the teachers have to deal with situations that stream from home most of the time. Yeah. And they're overwhelmed with our children not being productive as they should. Been in the 6th grade, reading at the 2nd grade level. Yeah. It's frustrating. No Child Left Behind have been one of the biggest hindrance in our community. Mm-hmm. But guess what? We voted for it. Yeah. And we can't even find where it was under that ballot. What code we voted for, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now it's kind of hard to get rid of it because we don't know where to amend. Right. So it's those things that we need to understand and we need to be taught too. Okay. So when you say start teaching our people, we need to start teaching our people that you're welcome at the State House, that your vote counts, that felons can vote, that you're entitled to victims of crime thanks to Deon Green and the work that his organization and him have done. So during the transition of teaching our people, it allows us to learn as well. Absolutely. Because it's a daily process.
What a brilliant idea. So I know another thing that we talked about that eventually I'm going to get you in front of the cameras is the still till.
Yes.
And I know that's near and dear to your heart as well. So just give me a little bit on what the still till is, what it means to you.
When I think of Mamie Till, Emmett Till's mother, and the life that myself and some fellow sisters are still advocating for justice, for accountability. Emmett Till was taken in 1958 or 53. I believe it's 58 because Dr. King was in 63 when he started his I Have a Dream. Here it is, I'm 54 years old. My son was shot and killed by Columbus police. There was 2 involved. And with all the evidence and the inconsistencies, I'm still fighting. And Emmett Till's mother fought until the day she took her last breath. And many of us mothers, I can only speak for the mothers because I'm not a father, I'm not being biased, we're still living the Till image of his story. They were aware of the inconsistencies. We in the black community still don't stand together in regards to these things, and we need to be educated on what it is, how to change it, because it can happen. And as she stated, when it happens to one of us, it happens to all of us. Yeah. So it is surely and dearly close to my heart because I'm living it. We're still living Till. You know,
that's true. And when you brought that to me, initially I was like, still Till. I thought it was very catchy, and it really made me think, like, she's right. Like, we are still living in that era where nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed
over all of these years. So
over 50 something years. Yeah. And the part that touched my heart the most was she was strong enough and willing to share her pain and her loss of her son. She made a statement. She was, and she stood on that.
Yeah, she did.
Until the day she took her last breath.
Yeah, she did.
And I believe that with the misfortune of having to take the torch and run with it, it came to me because I'm like watching the story and it's like, wow, they were guilty. Wow, this is happening.
And nobody was held accountable.
So when I look at some of the stories that we hear and that we see,
and that we live,
and that we live, I'm living it. I am living it.
Yeah, you
to
are.
the point where it's like having someone say, "Well, you know what? Oh well."
People become numb because nothing changes.
Right, and I can't do that.
Yeah,
I can't do that. I mean. I used to be the potato bug. You touch me, I fall up. Like, ugh. Or even at the point where I didn't know what to say. And in my mind, it's just like a fog. It was like, what do I do with this type of pain? What do I do with this type of pain? And when Emmett Till's story was actually presented, now we've all heard of Emmett Till through the photos and so on and so forth, but to actually know that they knew, and right now to this day know, admitted and still acquitted.
Paperwork got lost.
Everything.
You know, when I did some research after you brought that to my attention, and I thought, well, the woman is still alive, so certainly she could still be charged because there's no statute of limitation, right?
Right.
But nothing.
And she admitted.
And it. And still nothing. So, you know, we see that in those type of situations, like you said, in the police involved shootings, we see it. Even with the stand your ground law, you know, if you go back and you look at some of these stories that have taken place, especially like in Florida, how liberal they are when it comes to carrying guns and shooting people, and who they're going to hold accountable. We still live in those times, and so it's a little scary. When I heard the other day that Trump says he's running again, like for what? Because I truly feel like some of his antics has perpetuated some of the things that we see today that were probably laying dormant. And when he became president before, it exposed a lot of stuff, right? But at the end of the day, we have to be responsible for us. You know, whether it's the STOP program or we're talking about Still Till or whatever it is, we still have to be responsible for us. And so those things that you talk about are so relevant. And the STOP program, again, I think is such a brilliant idea. I can't wait until you get that all implemented and we start seeing some positive results. That's something that I think, like, now that they're getting ready to open the police athletic league again for the kids, that would be a perfect program to introduce to them as well.
And again, that is something that I would love to do. One thing that I want my grandchildren to know, I have one granddaughter and I have 5 biological, and in total of not having any I have 21 grandchildren altogether. 15 being boys, young men. And I believe them watching me as their grandmother stand up for their fathers, not just on one hand or another. It's like we've experienced our community since the acts of gun violence 13 years ago. And it still affects us today. Yeah. And I can go one further in 92 when my father was murdered. So I have to plant the seeds that no matter what, we have to stand on what it is that is right and what is wrong, and teaching accountability. Because all the way across the board, I don't never want none of my children or grandchildren to fear the color of their skin.
Yeah.
Not no man, not no woman, but just the color of your skin.
Absolutely.
You know, so with STOP and Still Till, I don't know where, Still Till, like, it came to me because I'm still living it. It's not just a name.
Right.
It's not just a name. It wasn't catchy for me. It was like, Karla, wow, we're still living in this.
Well, think about it. You just had an experience last Sunday with your grandson. And so that's evident, you know, in a lot of ways. Like what I saw that day when I talked to you was the trauma that you've experienced, losing both of your sons, the way you lost them, the way you responded to that. I saw the trauma expose itself all over again. I saw like you were going, this could happen and that could happen. And I'm thinking,
yes,
that never leaves. Once you've experienced it, it never leaves. I talked to Sabrina about it, and she agreed. And so at some point in time, the pain doesn't go away. And I don't even know if you can say it lessens as the time goes by. But what I recognize is at some point in time, we have to deal with those things that we've been exposed to. We have to be able to put them in a place after we've resolved it. It doesn't go away, but we don't have to carry it all the time, right?
Right.
And so I think like that's the piece that we're missing as well. The conflict resolution and all that is critical. But once we get that point and we get that part taken care of, okay, now I know how to deal with this now. How do I deal with that pain that came with this, and where do I put it? That's the next piece that we got to start talking about, is where do we put this pain? Because we can't carry it forever.
Well, as a believer, you give it to God. You know, putting things in places, it's almost like, okay, well, they say when you take things to the altar, you leave it there, and you don't pick it up and you walk away. Putting puzzles together, and you putting puzzle pieces together, and some fit and some don't. You put that puzzle piece to the side till you figure out where it goes. And so life is like a big old puzzle, and with free will and all the choices that we have, we are energy people. So you put it into your energy. And if your energy is in God, then you put it into God. If your energy is into planning, then you put it into planning. If your energy is into whatever it is, until it's due to what it is supposed to be. Because most of the time it starts off anger.
Yeah.
Anger is the first response.
Because that pain.
That
like pain. How did, like, you see how people express their pain in the streets, right? Every day we're reading about something. And so the problem is, oftentimes, we don't know how to place that stuff. So we just, whatever comes up, comes out. So I can't wait for you to do the STOP program, because I just believe it's going to be a vital part of our community once people latch on to it, and it starts to take like a wildfire, and it just takes off.
Yes, I'm excited about it.
I'm excited for you. We got a lot of stuff that, you could keep coming back and we can keep talking about, because we talk about ideas and things all the time, even fun stuff, like,
to be conducive. It has to be important, and that energy again is the energy that it's the love we give. See, the thing of it is, when we allow other cultures to show our lifestyles that don't live with us, show it different.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand.
It's what they see, not what they live. I need you to like, follow, and subscribe. We will be on every platform of social media. TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, you name it, we'll be there. So I need you to follow us. Thank you.